Chapter 1269, The Power of Wishes. Klein originally believed that the wishes ability could be used freely as long as it didn't exceed a limit. To his surprise, the effects didn't solely come from the beyonder characteristic. To put it simply, a miracle invoker needed to seek out and satisfy all kinds of wishes before they could make wishes and personally grant them during battles, turning the corresponding situation into a reality. Furthermore, at the very beginning, the wishes that Klein could fulfill were small and trivial. He had to accumulate them one step at a time before he could create a true miracle. He couldn't do as he wished. Yes, if I want to use dark demonic Wolfcotter's wishing method to teleport, I would have to first satisfy many similar wishes. It comes from others, from simple to the more difficult wishes. I do have a solution in this aspect. I can use Creeping Hunger and the Staff of the Stars to fulfill the corresponding wishes. There's no need to start from the simplest. Speaking of which, the wishes ability resembled using an anchor. It's a type of collective ability. Since the faithful's understanding of deities can effectively affect the deities and become a certain definition for them, helping them resist the primordial one's mental imprint in the beyonder characteristics. In the same way, similar wishes of different creatures with spirituality can indeed help me create a miracle. This might be related to the sea of collective subconscious. It's not scientific enough, but it's fairly mystical. After figuring out the situation of the wishes ability, Klein had a preliminary idea of how to act as a miracle invoker. That was to walk the real world, and as the most powerful magician, he would allow different people to witness a miracle and satisfy their wishes. It's no wonder the dark demonic wolf's original title was the God of Wishes. When such a belief spreads, many people would use the method of praying to voice out their wishes, allowing the miracle invoker to respond from afar. This makes acting a lot simpler. It can save a lot of time, but the problem is that the potion's name is Miracle Invoker and not the God of Wishes. The role one needs to act as is that of a deity, so there are still some differences between the two. I can roam the various countries and let different people witness miracles while using the fool's name to satisfy some of the believer's wishes. I'll then see which would be more effective. However, this isn't the only way to act as a miracle invoker. I still need to take the initiative to create a miracle in real life, leaving behind the corresponding legend. Klein tapped the edge of the long mottled table with his finger as he silently muttered to himself. During his scrutiny of his own body moments ago, he realized that he had digested more than half of the potion. After all, he had created miracles several times. He had even been revived 3 times. Of course, Klein believed that it was very coincidental because he could create a miracle and act in advance, mainly because of Sephra Castle. It's as though someone set me up. Klein sighed inwardly as he didn't feel relaxed. Instead, he became more serious and wary. As for who arranged it, he had a suspect. The mysteries that the ancient sun god mentioned, the existence suspected to be the celestial worthy of heaven and earth for blessings. And what made Klein even more puzzled was that, when he advanced to sequence 2 and became an angel, the celestial worthy of heaven and earth for blessings didn't appear. Neither did he awaken in his body after he experienced the qualitative changes. This was completely different from what he had expected. There weren't any traces of it at all. Apart from the initial mental corruption from the primordial one, something that will definitely arrive, it should be the spiritual imprint left behind in the beyonder characteristic. Could it be that the celestial worthy of heaven and earth for blessings has completely perished despite making all the arrangements? He doesn't have the ability to influence me and revive from my body. If that's the case, then I have to thank him. Klein teased himself and stood up with caution and puzzlement. With this thought, he appeared on the grayish-white cloud and arrived in front of the strange door of light. Glancing at the transparent cocoons hanging above his head, Klein slowly extended his right hand and touched the door of light. When he truly became the owner of this mysterious space, he had clearly realized a fact when he returned. It was that the strange door of light was core to this place. It was Sephra Castle in the truest sense of the word, and this boundless void belonged to the divine kingdom that Sephra Castle came with. As for the ancient palace, the 22 high-back chairs, the long bronze table, and the items that the members of the tarot club usually conjured, Klein believed that they were a manifestation of the wish's power. In other words, back when he wanted a palace and a gathering place, Sephra Castle had satisfied his wish. And because he didn't have a specific description of his wish, Sephra Castle had extracted scenes from similar wishes in the past. Klein suspected that the ancient Greek palace and the 22 high-back chairs were conjured by the existence that was suspected to be the celestial worthy of heaven and earth for blessings. As he moved inch by inch, Klein pressed his right hand against the edge of the door of light. This time, his palm didn't directly pierce through it, as he touched something corporeal. Suddenly, the door of light began to tremble slightly, along with the hanging cocoons, which contained human figures. Above the grayish-white fog, there was only an ancient palace in the endless void. Numerous skyscrapers rose rapidly. Cars appeared one after another as pedestrians suddenly appeared. In one of the residential districts, in an ordinary rental apartment, there was a window illuminated by an energy-saving bulb that wasn't bright enough. This was what the old metropolis from before the first epoch looked like before the disaster. This was the place Klein had once lived. Looking around, Klein sighed, letting everything disappear before his eyes. Indeed, I can preliminarily use Sephra Castle's powers. By relying on this point, I would already be close to the level of a king of angels when I'm above the gray fog. Furthermore, the authority I show isn't only that of miracles, but also a portion of a planeswalker and a Trojan horse of destiny. If I were to return to the real world, apart from being able to further utilize Sephra Castle's aura, I would be able to directly obtain a portion of its powers. This should allow me to form a nascent divine kingdom and reach sequence 1 in here. Unfortunately, in reality, I can't use the high-level beyonder powers of Marauder and Apprentice. As Klein evaluated the situation, he cast his gaze at the transparent cocoons hanging above the door of light. He ultimately didn't release the people inside, because they would definitely be used by Ammon. After confirming everything, Klein returned to the ancient palace and sat on the high-back chair of the Fool. He remembered that some of his memories were sealed, so he summoned the piece of paper from the junk pile. Upon opening it, Klein's eyes narrowed and his lips quivered as he muttered to himself, "Great old ones, outer deities, cosmos, creator above the sequences. So that's how it is." At that moment, he completely understood the rationale behind the battle of gods that had just ended. He understood the possible origins of the apocalypse and understood why the 7 deities had given tacit consent to the birth of a black emperor, and their indifference towards the red angel evil spirits' return to the real world. From the information provided by Leonard and Miss Justice, Lone ultimately clinched victory. It's very likely that the god of combat has already perished. In other words, the goddess has succeeded, but I don't know what other conditions she is lacking to become a great old one that's above the sequences. I'll summon Arodes later to inquire about the details of the situation and grasp the present situation. With this in mind, Klein recalled the various details of the past and connected many matters together. Earth Mother, whose identity had been unknown, had succeeded in acting as the giant Queen Umbella for thousands of years without being exposed. It's impossible without the help of concealment. Man, the goddess, has been plotting something like this from the 3rd epoch or even the end of the 2nd epoch. Why does this feel more terrifying than Ammon? Yes, concealment can only hide traces of various aspects. It can mislead the corresponding prying and divination attempts, making it impossible for a person to don a disguise. For the Earth Mother to be able to pretend to be Umbella without being suspected by the god of combat, there may be other factors involved. For example, a particular existence helped her steal the fate of the giant queen. At that time, there was only one person who had the authority to participate in this matter: the ancient sun god, the second creator, Ammon and Adam's father. If that's the case, the goddess and the ancient sun god should have cooperated from a long time ago, until the new creator awakened the primordial one in him. This can also explain why the first existence that Dark Angel Sasrier sought out was the goddess. Of course, concealment is also an important factor. Ever since I obtained the uniqueness of the death pathway, the goddess has been setting up the trap. On the one hand, She wants me to take over the numinous episcopate's artificial death faction in Backland to pretend that everything is normal. On the other hand, she didn't deal with the people or objects that might have discovered something was amiss, resulting in the leak of information. This way, in the eyes of the god of combat, the situation became the goddess trying her best to conceal the secret, but due to her lack of control while digesting the uniqueness, she was unable to do so. After that, be it tacitly acquiescing George III becoming the Black Emperor, or the aid provided to me in destroying his ritual, the goddess doesn't care about the final outcome of the matter. Her main goal was to show that she didn't have the ability to directly interfere with the real world, further deepening the impression that she was attempting to accommodate the uniqueness of the death pathway. There are a lot of similar details. To the god of combat, as he had a deeper understanding of the goddess, he definitely wasn't fully convinced in regards to this matter. Therefore, he chose to take it safe by first shaking the goddess's anchors, allowing her psyche to be corrupted. To him, this definitely made her divert a large portion of her efforts to resist the corruption before he chose to attack the goddess together with Earth Mother. This, and it's because of this that he fell into the goddess's trap. In other words, the true goal of the goddess's various actions wasn't to lay a trap with the uniqueness of the death pathway, but to let the other deities place their focus on this matter and ignore the possibility that there was something wrong with Earth Mother. How terrifying! Klein sighed from the bottom of his heart. He felt that Adam and Ammon were probably inferior to the goddess when it came to horror. He shook his head, conjured a pen and paper, and wrote his warning. Always remember you are a he, not a he.